Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be showing off a brand new archetype, the Kshatri-la. So what they do is actually get rid of your opponent's zones. You can get rid of all your opponent's spell and trap zones, and therefore they cannot play any of them. And is it realistic to do this? You can try. You can even try to get rid of all their main monster zones. So that would be something like you can do like Ojama King. You could use Ground Collapse in combination with this, and potentially lock your opponent down. So it is potentially a lockdown deck. And so let me explain some of the inner workings. I'm going to play some replays over here so you guys can get an idea of how the deck works. So basically, all of them have the effect where, like, if you control the monsters, you can just special summon it from your hand, and then they'll have some effect to either search out like a spell, you can search out a monster from your deck to your hand, which is really good for the archetype. And then on top of that, whenever they attack or your opponent activates a monster effect, you are able to actually get some sort of a bonus effect with banishing something face down. That's how the archetype kind of works. Now, the deck, like in this instance over here, they focused in on trying to get rid of the zones. Obviously, the fusions just didn't really care too much about that because you can still, even if you lock down all the zones, they still have the extra monster zone. So it can have some matchups which could be a little bit more difficult. Now, this one up over here is going to be utilizing Mech Knights because obviously if you can control your opponent's zones, you force them to summon something exactly where you want it. But the AzneyesWhitedragon monster is one of the most important cards, and you'll see it time and time again, which is actually the Kshatri-la Shangri-La. So this card over here has the ability to make it so each time a card is banished face down, which again, all of the monsters have that effect where if your opponent activates a monster effect or you declare an attack, you get to banish something that is face up and you banish it face down. Every single time that you do that, you get to pick a zone. So you get to lock down either a monster or spell and trap zone. So it's really big. Now, if you're playing against pendulums, this is like an auto win. If they don't place their pendulum zones instantly or they activated something earlier on, you can just shut down the pen zone, and then basically pendulums have a very tough time dealing with your board. Now, the monsters themselves don't really have any other effect other than that, but obviously being able to banish another monster is still pretty decent. But the thing is that it's going to be face up on the field, and is this a deck that can break boards is kind of a question too. And as of right now, people are mixing it in other archetypes, and I'm going to give you guys honest gameplay. Sometimes, you know, a deck is maybe not ready or it just takes a bunch of L's, and I think the deck has a lot of potential to be one of the better decks in the game, but it might just be a little bit earlier on. And I've been watching the deck kind of play out. A lot of people are playing this card, which is Sacred Sword of 7 stars. You banish it, and then you get to draw 2. So basically, you'd cycle the effect, then you get to go and actually draw 2. And on top of that, if your opponent negates the effect, it adds a little bit more. I wish Sacred Sword was not a once per turn. This would make the deck so much better, considering most of them are 7s. But like, you know, going for things like Big Eye just aren't super relevant anymore. There's just too much to control. And that's the problem I would say that this deck definitely has, is dealing with really established boards. Like, you can summon your monster, and then you have to force them to activate the effect, and then you have to try to get something banished. It's a little bit more difficult, I would say. And like, in terms of turn 1 boards, I'll show you guys a better turn 1 board over here. I saved the best for the last, but you guys will see a mix-up of the Nemesis to get extra special summons and reset some of the engine. So Unicorn is going to be able to add the spell. We're going to go add the continuous one over here. This one over here has the ability to you can normal summon a level 7 without tributing, and then during your main phase, you can just special summon one of your non-AzneyesWhitedragon Kshatri-la monsters that is banished or in your graveyard. So it gives you another extra card with the Nemesis engine. And this guy is also mixing in the Punk engine with it. And then on top of that, if your opponent activates a spell card or an effect and you control a Kshatri-la monster, you get to target 3 cards in your opponent's graveyard and banish them face down. So that would activate the effect once again. So again, your whole goal is to shut down your opponent. And in this duel over here, we're going to be shutting down all the back row you'll see over here. The Jambo over here going to be losing all the back. He's playing Dinomorphia. This card is actually really good in that deck, because basically you can bounce back your opponent's entire board, especially because Dinomorphia can get to basically in the single digit of life points, because they're always about pay half for the most part. There are some other cards where you can run to pay a little bit more. So he's going to stop this card over here and also activate the Kshatri-la Prepare. So the Kshatri-la Prepare has the effect of during either player's turn, you get to special one of your Kshatri-la monsters that's banished or in your hand. And if your opponent activates a trap or effect while this card is already face up and you control a Kshatri-la monster, you can look at your opponent's hand and banish one card from it face down. So again, that is kind of the goal. You see that there there's 2 back row that is shut down right now. Now, I don't know if it's the best idea to always get rid of the monster zones. In some duels, yes, if you get rid of that like 1 link monster zone that like they need that arrow, it's game over for certain matchups. Again, with pendulums, it could be an auto win too. You just shut down one of the other pen zones, and then at that point, what do? It's gonna be rough, right? So I think that that can be another win condition, is technically the matchups. I mean, Dynamorphia, and especially fusion matchups, it can be a little bit rough because, again, even if you shut down all the monsters, they're just gonna summon it to the other zone, and this card is just basically a big, beefy defender. So you see he's going to get into weird life points. Oh man, I hate playing against this deck in real life because the calculations, if you don't have a good way to calculate it, yeah, it's a little bit rough. Like 312 attack, right? It's just weird. But once again, we are going to activate that effect. And now look at it. All of the back row is shut down. He lost 394. He's going to get rid of that. And again, the monsters themselves, this one actually protects itself again. This is one of the most annoying cards because during the standby phase, you got to keep on bringing back cards. So the whole way the deck plays is you got to get Shangri-La and just keep on getting a bunch of bonus effects. It's at its goal a stun/lockdown deck, but it takes a while. So the goal is to shut down your opponent completely. Like you get rid of all the spell and trap, you get rid of all the monsters, and then your opponent cannot play. But is that going to be enough to actually win? And the answer is no, because he got everything to low life points and he's able to swing for game. I think this has been like one of the first times in a while that we've uploaded a like set of duels where like the deck just took a bunch of L's, but I thought it was the best example of gameplays. Like I will give you guys some more gameplays of the deck and as well as some of the builds. But again, the problem that this deck mainly has is really dealing with boards that are already established. That's why you need cards like Dark Ruler No More to basically even the playing field. You can even use Evenly Matched. That would be another option as well. But you do have a bunch of cards that do linger, so Evenly sometimes can be bad if you're playing like things like Macro. I've seen a few people play Defissure as well because, you know, those cards are just generally good. There's also, you guys didn't really get to see it in the gameplay other than it being set, so he would like try to prevent some extra damage. But you get to remove from play a Psychic monster from your deck, so this could be a really decent card, especially with the Nemesis engine, to get an extra like summon, because you could get to special summon for free. And then again, like I said before, Big Eye is kind of outdated. You can go for Zeus in the deck as well, but in terms of like other things, this guy was running kind of a more like niche build over here. But shoutouts to and Flanders for this one, and then Yotan's build over here was actually playing Yamada Dragon, which is actually pretty crazy. I mean, you could spam a bunch of cards, obviously, with Mech Knight, so this is like a cool attack card that I want to mention as well. I'll give you guys the deck profiles, and shout out to all the players that were playing this deck. But I think that the deck maybe needs a couple more cards to make it like its own archetype. Again, Mech Knights could be an instant, like, you know, that would be a great thing to mix it up with. I really like the Punk variant, but honestly, a lot of the plays were mostly off of like the Punk engines versus like, yeah, you can get an extra monster out, and then if they do something, you can maybe banish a card face down. So there are some like other mix-ups that you could probably play with this archetype, but again, it's more like an introduction to the archetype to show you guys how it works. I'm curious to know if you guys think it's really good or not. I mean, it's supposed to be like the ultimate lockdown deck. That's the goal of it. But if you did want to run like, let's say, Ground Collapse, like if you wanted to, like because this one knocks down 2, right? So if you knock down 3, that can be pretty good, especially if you already have a monster in the extra monster zone. They have to take the other one, and you just shut down all of the like ones that would point to. But it's very matchup dependent, and I want to show you guys like against fusions, like the fusions players are just like, don't even worry about it, I don't need it. So unfortunately, there are bad matchups. Again, Pendulums would be a great matchup for this. There's Ojama King. I believe you can get this out. There's a way to get this out. It's not instant fusion, right? But there is a way to get this out with one card. I forgot what the card is off the top of my head. So if someone wants to comment below. But like, if you can go for Ojama King plus this, yeah, that's a pretty good shutdown. Or if you just go for Ojama King and you get 2 cards, that could also be another way to shut down. If you shut down all main monster zone, again, a fusion deck, or there's not that many Exceed monster decks where it's just like you just bring out the Exceed, right? But that can be a problem too, because you can't shut down that zone. If you could, then this archetype would be insane that you can shut down the extra monster zone. But like, I think that it's a cheesy way to kind of play. I mean, even with the shutdown of all the spells and traps, I don't know, maybe shutting down monsters could be a good way, but you need to shut down basically like 4 monster zones to be like solid. And consistently to get out 4 monsters in the archetype, it's a little bit of a cheesy way to try to play the deck right now. You'd have to really play Ground Collapse, I would say. You'd have to have Ground Collapse, and then you need to get double negations, and more than likely they would probably stop your other card at some point. But anyways, that's my thoughts on the archetype, and there's an introduction to it. But let me know guys' thoughts down below. But thanks for tuning in. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. If you're new here and you want to see more new Yu-Gi-Oh videos in the future, and I'll give you guys an update to this. They're probably going to get more stuff in the archetype, and I'll give you guys some more gameplay of it in the future. But take care, and I'll see you guys in the next next video. Peace.